Hi everyone, it's Frances Byrne here from Stamp House Studio. I'm here today with another creative chat with the MFT Stamps Design Team. Our question today is, show us your creative mind at work. Take us on a journey through a card making session, start to finish. How do you select colours, layout, embellishments and overall design? Share your creative process with us. When I'm making a card, it normally takes me between 2 to 3 hours at least to create. So before I get started, I normally turn my TV on, pop on a DVD and watch one of my favourite TV shows. Then when I'm to make the actual card itself, I normally always start with a stamp set. Unless of course it's a sketch, and then I'll look at the sketch and see, you know, what the layout of that is, and that will determine what stamp set I pick. But normally it's always the other way around. It's the stamp set and then I'll worry about the layout later. For my card today, I'm going to be using this cute Pure Innocent stamp from MFT Stamps, and it's called Jump for Joy. Hopefully you can see that. Our stamps don't come in the fancy packaging, they just come on the plastic sheet. And when I get them, I normally write in a Sharpie what the name is so that I know that it's easy enough to find at a later date and I can remember the name of the set when I need to use it for blogging purposes and things like that. So let's get started. The next step in my creative process is deciding which designer papers I'm going to use on my card. So I'll grab a few of my 6x6 pads, which you can see here in front of me, and I'll just flick through until I see the set that I want. Seeing that I'm using that cute little girl that's skipping, I think, well, it needs to be nice and bright and happy because she's so happy playing skipping. And so I'm actually going to pick this one because I actually like the bright colours in here, the stripes and everything else. So this is the one I'm going to select, which is Lily Bean Designs Head Over Heels. So now it's time to actually stamp my card. So I'm just going to ink my stamp on my block. And my favourite ink for choice for colouring is Brilliant Black, and I'm just going to stamp that in the centre of my card, because then I have options. I can either use it with a dynamic die or I can use cut it square, rectangle, whatever I want depending on the design that I'm going to do. Just let that dry for a few minutes, and while I'm doing that I can select my colours that I'm going to use to colour that in, and that will be determined by the colours that I'm going to pick in this stamp, in this paper pad here that I have here. I do know for a start that I want my EOO and EO2 because they're the colours I always use for faces. Of course there are lots of other colours you can use, and I'll just pick out a few other colours that I want to use for that. Okay, here's my image and it's all finished being coloured in. The colours I ended up using were EOO, EO2 and E93 for her face and all her flesh areas. For her shoes and her little clip in her hair, I used R81 and R82, R83. Her hair was E23 and E25, and for her skipping rope handle I used YR65. Now you might have noticed that I haven't coloured in her dress that she's wearing. That's because I've decided I want to paper piece her dress. Okay, that just gives a little bit more interest. And I've already done that. I've stamped it out on some pattern paper from that head over heels pad that I selected earlier. So now what I'm going to do is cut that out, and also cut out just the belt and the collar in white and paper piece them and put them on here. Once I've done that, I'll be back to talk to you. Okay, as you can see, I've finished paper piecing my Pure Innocent Girls dress. I've also added some colour to the collar and the belt, which I use B02. I would have preferred B01, but my marker needs re-inking, and I just don't have time to do that at the moment. So the next thing I need to do before I go any further is decide on my layout, so I know, do I want to cut her into an oval, a circle, a square, a rectangle, or whatever, because that will depend on what layout I do. Sometimes when I'm stamping, the layout will just happen as I go along, and other times I'll pick a sketch and use that sketch as my base. There are a lot of sketches out in blogland on the internet period, which you can use. MFT also does a sketch every Wednesday. It's the MFT Wednesday Stamp Club, and you'll find our sketches every Wednesday on the MFT blog, and also in the member forum of Split Close Stampers. I'll put those links on my blog for you if you're interested. They have some good sketches on there. I also have a selection of sketches that I call my go-to sketches, so that when inspiration is needed, because there are some times when mojo doesn't happen to whoever it is, it doesn't matter who you are, I can go to those. They're sketches that I've either done before or found and really liked, and so I can use those. Today I've decided to use an old My Favourite Things sketch from our Wednesday Sketch Challenge, and it's this one here. It's number 16, and I've printed it out. I don't normally print them out when I do them because I can just have it up on my computer, but for today's purposes I just thought it would make things easier. It's got the circle, it's got a little white area there for your sentiment, etc. Of course, you don't have to keep exactly to this sketch. I'm actually going to change it a little bit. I'm going to change the circle, and I'm going to actually make that into an oval, and I'm going to use this Dynamics die of MFT stamps, and it's the oval decorative doily. If you have a look at the stamp, the girl itself fits perfectly on the oval, but the skipping rope doesn't. So if I'd have actually cut my card with this and stamped on that, it would have been a mess because the skipping rope, as I said, doesn't fit. So that's why I've actually stamped it onto my card here, because I can now cut out the Pure Innocence girl minus the skipping rope, and then layer that onto my cutout die that I'm going to cut out of white card in a minute. And that will solve those problems, and I can work out later on when I'm near the end of my card what I'm going to do about the skipping rope that she's holding. So I'll get that done and I'll come back to you in a bit. Okay, she's all cut out now. As you can see, I've die cut my decorative doily, my oval one, and I've also sponged around the edge with antique linen distress ink just to take off some of the stark whiteness of it. Okay, so that can then, I've actually put foam dots on the back of the image, and so I can attach that to there in a minute, which I shall do in a bit. I'll also put foam tape on the back of there because I like that to pop up. And I've also selected my papers for my layers. You can see by the photo here that I've got the back layer there, this one here, and then this one here, which I've picked these ones. I selected these two because they have the colours in this stripe one here. I didn't worry about pink because, as you can see, she's got the pink on her dress already. So, and there's lots of pink showing up in this stripe piece anyway, more so than the others. So I've got that. I've also, while I was working, decided that I could either have it like that or put a border on that edge, and I think this time round I'll go with the border. And I've actually selected the faux crochet border, which actually matches the pattern that is on this decorative doily die here, Dynamics die here. Okay, so that's why I've selected this one. Sometimes, you know, you might just die cut something just to see whether it looks how you thought it might look, and if it does, you keep it there, and if you don't, you don't. So now that I've got all that figured out, I can now adhere these together. I also think that I might like to stitch around the edges, so that's going to be my next step, is just put a little bit of adhesive at the back there, stitch around all those, and then just layer these all together. And once I've done that, I'll come back again. Okay, she's all layered onto there, and I've got my foam on the back ready to put on there when I'm ready. And I've adhered all the layers to my card, and as you can see, I've stitched around. I've just done a plain stitch around the edge and around the edge of that one, and a zigzag there, and I've put all my ends to the back. So the next thing I need to do, looking at my sketch, is decide what I'm going to do there. You could use dynamic borders if I wanted to, or ribbon like is in the sketch here, which is what I have decided to do. And I've actually picked this orange ribbon here, which I think will go nicely with the card. So I'm just going to do, this one will just go around like that, and this one I will actually tie into a bow, and then I can attach that to there. And then the next thing is to decide whether or not I'm going to actually add that piece there, or how I'm going to put a sentiment on the front, if I'm going to put a sentiment on the front. Once I've done this, then I'll decide, so I'll be back in a bit. Okay, my card's done to this stage now. I've put my ribbon on, got everything on there so it's not going to fall off when I tip it up or whatever. And I've decided to do a bow that has a button in the middle. It's kind of like a cheats bow. Okay, but it just gives you an extra bit of colour and another embellishment to your card, so it's a little different than just doing a plain bow. If you haven't seen those before, they're pretty easy to do. All you need is a button and some thread, which I've put here, and I've actually put my thread through already. You can see it there, just to save a little bit of time. And a piece of ribbon. Just form your ribbon like you would, and slip one half of your ribbon through that bow, like that. Now then, if you're putting it on like we have here, you could just tie it tight and just add it as an embellishment at the top there if you like, without a piece going through, if that's what you wanted to. Or if you were doing like I've done here, I've attached it to another piece, is that you'd get your piece that you were going to use that was going that way, and I'd put that through like that, and then just pull everything tight. Just tie your bow, or your knot, whatever you wanted to, like that. Trim those ends and attach that piece to your card, and you'd be done. Okay, of course I'm not tying that into a knot because I'm going to actually pull that apart later on and probably use that for something else. So So that's just an option. Okay, the other thing that I've decided while I was playing with this is that on the original sketch, the little sentiment tab was up the top. Well, because I changed the oval, I knew that it wouldn't fit there. So I've been playing, and I've actually, with my some of my dynamics dies, I actually have, here's my first place award ribbon die in here, and you can see all the little extras that I have. Those little extras come in handy sometimes, because then you can play with those to see where you'd want to place it. I mean, I could place this little ribbon, and I love the ribbons in this particular die set. I could place it there if I like, but I don't really like. I've actually got a smaller piece here, and I don't mind that. With this particular die and that sentiment, it doesn't really quite fit. One of the letters, either at the beginning or the end, or both, would either just make it, or... So what I've decided to do is actually get the sentiment and just check it, and just cut it apart so I have just the jump for joy. It's not going to hurt your stamps, and it's easy enough to put that back together again like that and place it on a block if I want the whole sentiment again. That's what I love about clear stamps. But I can then stamp that onto a piece like this. I'll actually stamp it on this one because this one's just a fraction too small. So I'm going to stamp that on there, and then I'm going to cut that and place it so it goes out like that. So I'll get that done and be back. Okay, I've put my sentiment on, as you can see there. I also decided that it looked better having a bit of black behind it, just helped stand it out. So what I did there, I didn't want to use the bigger dynamic die on this one because that would give it a too big a border. So what I did to get the thin border was just grabbed a piece of black card and also my die that I have here, and placed it onto my black card, and then just took a pencil and traced around the outline. Cut that out, and that gave me just the right size border that I needed for that. Just thought it looked a little bit better. Okay, so now what I need to do is to sort out her skipping rope. So what I'm going to do is use some of this Caribbean twine, which is also available from My Favourite Things. So I'm just going to position that and just attach that under her little hands where the rope is, like that. And then finally adhere that to my folded card, which I've decided I like the orange, so, and then that will be finished. So I'll get that done and come back. Okay, the front is now finally finished. As you can see there, I've added my twine for the skipping rope, and I just used a bit of hot glue under her hand and just a little bit in two places around so that it didn't flop down when I held it up, and also have put my card onto my base card. So I normally also decorate the inside, and as you can see at the moment there's nothing there. So I've already cut my black card to save time, and I'll use some white card. I'm going to put this piece down here again because it matches that one there, and I've also cut another faux crocheted border, the dynamics, that matches the oval at the front. And I think I will be stamping my little girl again on the inside. I think I like that you've got the image on the inside as well. And then I'm going to use this sentiment here which says, you make my heart skip a beat, and I'm going to put that on this side there. Excuse my dirty block. Okay, so I'll get that done and I'll be back. Right, I've decorated the inside. As you can see, I've again put the border, stitched around, stamped my images and my sentiment. I discovered the sentiment fitted better just here than it did there, so that's why I've put it lower down, and it just gives interest to have it in a different place. So all I need to do now is attach this to the inside of my car. I've already put the adhesive on the back of it. And now my card is completely finished. So that was my creative process. I hope I've answered all the questions I had to answer for this one. And I hope you like my card. Thanks for watching.